Hey guys, it's Nick from Soho Motorsports.
George with Soho Motorsports.
And today we're going to discuss VQ headlift. So we've been building motors for quite a number of years and have found weak points, failures, successes, a lot of things, everything in between all that. And finally have come to a solution to where we can honestly say that
We've solved it.
we solved the VQ headlift.
For sure.
So George is going to discuss some of the things that we've come across. We'll also discuss fire rings, and then we'll also discuss the actual solution that we found.
Sure. So when we first started, we would do just regular cosmetic gaskets. Those are great for probably up to about 700 wheel. After that, you would get head lift. It's no brainer. Our next scenario that we tested was we did copper O-rings,
Yep.
the fire rings, as you commonly refer to.
Yep.
That was okay, but that still lifted the heads. Probably around, what was it? Maybe around 800.
It was 850-ish, 900-ish.
Yep.
And
so it lifted the head. And then we actually have a solution now. So
that we've come across. So, touching base on what he said about the fire rings and everything. So, what we tend to see is with that copper O-ring, you would say, that goes into the actual block.
Right.
A lot of people will basically just do that, no receiver groove in the actual head. So it's great. It creates another layer on top of the actual cylinder because you have that protrusion of the copper O-ring. The biggest thing is it's not really a sealed thing because it's not really a full circle, because a lot of times it butts up and you'll see where it doesn't meet up properly, and that is just vulnerable in regards to where it could fail. And a lot of times too, the big thing with that is once it lifts,
it's done for.
It's done for. I mean, it's a soft, malleable component, and so that's what we saw. And so what we found is we found going with a top fuel hoop is going to be the way. And George has one in his hand.
Yep.
And so basically, we contacted TKM after we kept having all these issues with the VQs and big horsepower, and talked to Kevin over there. Really nice guy, really knowledgeable guy. He's been doing this for some time, and he led us to basically the top fuel hoop.
Yep. So as you can see, one piece. Like your typical copper fire rings, they are a piece of wire that you cut, that you actually lay into the groove, and then you'd have to cut on each side to do a full circle. Like Nick said, that's your vulnerability point right there. So this is a one-piece stainless steel O-ring. And what we do with this is we press it into the head. Don't know if you can see clearly on there, but this is pressed into the head right here. There is a receiver groove in the block, which accept this to mate. And we also pair that with a copper gasket that Nick has here that is a proprietary gasket that we developed that goes along with these packages.
And so and with this head gasket, we contacted Clark in regards to making a head gasket for us to basically assist with that top fuel hoop O-ring. So if you can hand me that O-ring here, we'll kind of also discuss too. So what happens is this is pressed into the head, and so this is pressed into the head, and then you have the actual copper head gasket that lays onto the block, and then basically the receiver groove in the actual block itself is where everything comes together. The nice thing about having top fuel hoop is it's a lot larger in height, and so when I bring that up into discussion with the higher height with the actual top fuel hoop, what it does is, say you have the receiver groove on the block and then you have the O-ring on the head, basically in the copper gasket goes inside, it sits in here. If there's any kind of movement in that head, which there may be a little bit because you're doing big horsepower, I mean, things will tend to walk here and there. What you're going to notice is if there's any little bit of movement, it's still going to stay sealed.
Right. Yeah. Yep.
So you're basically still keeping everything contained in that actual cylinder and not having any combustion come into the actual cylinder and cause any kind of overheating, cause any kind of pressure in the cooling system.
Right. So this system is actually in all of our high horsepower cars, including Ben's 900 wheel supercharged car, Nathan's 934 stage 3 single turbo car, and also in Nismo Bay, which is right behind us. So Nismo Bay has been running this setup for a very long time. 30 pounds that we typically see
Typically, we see at the track 31. Sometimes it'll hit 35. We have seen sometimes where it hit 47 because the wastegate line came off, and it's still
going, man. We've tested the crap out of this thing. The engine is still good. It has not introduced any pressure into the cooling system with everything that we've done, from numerous quarter-mile passes, dyno runs at 30 plus psi. Over 1,000 wheel horsepower on the dyno that we constantly, maybe 150 dyno runs, if not more, and zero issues. So this is definitely the end-all cure to VQ head lift.
Correct. And so another couple of things we want to talk about too as well. So whenever you do get a package from us in regards to this setup, one thing is that we've talked to Kevin over at TKM, and this process for the VQ is proprietary to Soho Motorsports.
Correct.
So if you're wanting to do this kind of package, you would have to go through us in regards to that, just because of the amount of time, R&D, and matter of fact, just money we've invested into this actual department to kind of help resolve this issue that's plagued the community for a number of years.
Very long time.
And so when we found out that we were able to resolve this head lift scenario or issue, we're starting to see other weak points that could occur in the future. And so if you can see here on the right, you'll see these are the pistons that we designed with Seiko. And so we found that the CP pistons that come in most of the cars that you're going to get are going to be rated for around 1,200 horsepower. We're well above that in the Nismo, so nothing's really happened yet in regards to having a failure in there. However, we want to look ahead. So you can see we've developed this piston. It's a lot beefier piston, and also the much larger wrist pin that you see here. So that's one thing that we've developed along with this motor package. You will get the Carrillo rods with the 3/8 bigger rod bolts. Right. Bearings, I mean, everything is all spec'd when we do build these motors, and so, and like I said, like George said, we've been testing these motors
very long
since before, I want to say March of this year, because Nismo was introduced at Texas 2K, and so it's been running since March. So we do plan to basically up the ante on the Nismo. I guess it's safe to say that we've partnered up with Brian Crowder for next season, and we will be going stroker crank aluminum rods in the Nismo, and shooting for big power. We're going to try to shoot for 1,700 wheel out of it. Granted, first we want to resolve the transmission issues that we're working with a company in regards to doing that. So we will go out on this setup prior to going to the new setup to get ultimately that 8 that we've been chasing for a while. So. For sure. But this is pretty much everything that you see here. We wanted to come out and discuss this, what we found, and so everybody is aware. If you do have any questions, you're more than, you can contact us.
Email, call, and to add to what Nick just said. So our website's a little outdated on the engine packages. We're going to go through that, probably have it up by the first of the year. That will include this service. So if you wanted to send us your block, heads, and everything to have this done, we'll have that on the website with everything that's detailed with it, along with our other engine packages as well.
And then the final thing, so whenever we do quote motors, we usually will quote them with this service. We're going to usually quote it as a full long block. Correct. So when it's a full long block, it's going to have all of the timing components. It's also going to have, if you want to hand me it's also going to have the upgraded Boundary Racing oil pump gear inside of it as well too. So it's not just, hey, it's the bottom end and the head. It's pretty much the full package. You will get powder coated timing covers, color of your choice. Everything is all built. George is the builder that builds all these motors, and he's built every single motor that's come through here. So he has seen what fails, what process works, what process doesn't work. I mean, everything in regards to that. And we still are learning. I mean, every day we're still learning about these things. It's not one of those that we say, hey, this is it and that's it. We're not going to keep doing more research. We will continue to do more research on this platform.
Yeah, and then what Nick said, so we, I think, are the only company that offer a true long block. So when we say long block, this is a drop-in engine. So most companies' long block is bottom end, heads bolted on, and that's it. So our long blocks are, all of that, timing covers, timing chains, water pump, oil pan, valve covers. It is a true drop-in engine. So if that's something you're looking for, that's what we offer.
And in conclusion, I mean, that's like we were saying, if you have any questions, please do not hesitate to give us a call, shoot us an email. Typically, if you respond through social media, it may take a couple of days to get to it just because it's only me and George that are up front. Right. So we're the only ones that usually will answer or take calls or answer anybody's questions. Right. But do bear with us. Like I said, we do want to provide this information to the community to show people, hey, like, we're making big progress in this, and we feel that the Nissan and Infiniti is definitely something that once it's figured out,
We can
at
push
the
it.
yeah we
Yeah,
can push it
we
and at
can
the
push it
track
on
we
it.
can get the respect that we deserve from the Fords, the Dodges, and
Yep.
all these other platforms that are out there drag racing.
Yep.
So we thank you for your time.
Thank you very much.